Hey guys, Stevagan here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Staple Speaks. Today is going to be a very low effort one because we are going to be looking at one of the most infamous videos in football YouTube history. It's a video about Pele from Rema Football. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Rema Football. I just feel that his sort of videos are just done a little better by HITC Sevens, which is a channel I love to watch, and I just think that it has been done. But hey, we're gonna get straight in. This video is over 2 years old, and I decided that since I want to switch up my channel a bit, I'm gonna put it out a little one of these. It's a little low effort, but also a huge announcement. This is probably gonna be my last video, which is gonna be an inconsistent, maybe sort of timeline, because from now it's an exam minefield for me. So you know what? We'll keep that aside. We'll look at this very infamous video and let's critique it together. Let's watch it together. Let's critique it together. Here we go.
Pele is one of the most iconic football players who have ever lived. He is a national hero in Brazil, has unbelievable records under his name, and countless people worldwide consider him the greatest player to ever step foot on the pitch. So would you believe me if I told you that Pele is actually the most overrated footballer of all time?
No, we won't actually. That's why we're here making this video. But I'm gonna let this guy actually talk, and then I'll just jump in whenever I think it is necessary to.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Raymar back again for another video. Today, we're gonna look at why Pele is the most overrated footballer of all time. But before you hit that dislike button and call me an idiot in the comment section, I just want to say that I am in no way trying to disrespect Pele or the impact that he had on football. So just watch till the very end to see all the information before you start to hate.
That's a good thing he made, because he's obviously is not making this video with any malice, and I understand that. But I just had to watch this video because it's a classic, and for some reason, it's still talked to this day. Look at that like to dislike ratio, man. 60k to 30k. I understand that's more likes than dislikes, but Jake Paul videos have more likes than dislikes as well. So I don't really think. I'm pretty sure, if I'm going back as well, the review for Damn by Anthony Fantano also has more likes than dislikes. So I'm not gonna really think it, but oh my god, 30,000 dislikes. This is gonna be a fun one. I'm just gonna be on the side of Pele for this one, because I am a firm believer in the fact that just because there aren't stats to back him up doesn't mean that he was overrated. So let's go straight in.
With that being said, let's get on to it. For as long as I can remember, the idea that Pele was undoubtedly the greatest player ever just seemed to be taken in as a fact, and nobody really questioned why. Whenever names like Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo, or any other footballing icons are brought up, Pele always seems to be the benchmark or standard by which fans use to judge these players. Even a young 17-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo has stated that Pele is the greatest player in football history. Well, Ronaldo was born in 1985, and by that time, Pele had already been retired for 8 years. So the question remains to even you guys watching out there, how can you call someone the greatest of all time if you've never even seen them play?
Well, here is a good point that he has actually brought up, is that you need to actually see a footballer to call them the greatest of all time. For me, I have absolutely no clear goal. I have eras which I think players have been the best in. I think of people like Stanley Matthews, Alfredo Di Stefano, but Pele is undoubtedly the best player of the 60s. Because I was in the phase of watching a lot of old clips when I was just getting into football, because it's just something I've always done. It's whenever I want to get into something, I will always watch older clips of it or historic clips. And when I saw Pele as the greatest footballer of all time, I needed to see it. And the clips that he's showing on his video are exactly the clips that made me fall in love with how good and how incredibly skillful this guy was. But let's see what he brings up.
To break down why Pele is the most overrated footballer ever, let's begin with his unreal and almost godlike record of scoring 1,283 goals, which
I'm gonna stop it here because I know exactly what he's gonna say, but I'm gonna wait for him to say it.
is the most recorded by any footballer in history. However, the truth is that 526, or roughly 40% of those goals, were not actually scored in official matches.
I knew he was gonna say that. So, yeah, if you didn't know by now, Pele obviously did not score 1,283 goals. That is a mad number for someone who played for like 14, 15 years. It is absolutely mad. But however, he did score around about 780 goals. And if you can sort of round out the number with all this goals to game ratio, he has 0.92 goals a game. To give you in context, Lionel Messi has a 0.81 ratio. This guy, even with the exaggeration, even without it actually, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. I made a video on Joseph Bichan and I kept on using Pele's stats to compare him. Now, obviously, he scored more, but Pele is literally right behind him. And it is insane to look at his goal scoring record, because you look at it and you start wondering, how does one man in such a competitive league manage to get those many goals? But yeah, let's continue with the video.
Those goals were actually scored in friendlies, exhibitions, and tour games against below average teams and players.
Below average teams. Okay, so here's a good thing I should tell you. I'm gonna maybe try and put it in, but I don't think there's actually any official footage of it, but it has been confirmed by the clubs. Pele's Santos team played two teams in the 60s in Europe, Benfica and AC Milan. Those two were undoubtedly the best teams in Europe at that time. Benfica at that time had Eusebio up top. And in those two games alone, in those two game series, which were around 5 games, Pele scored 9 goals. So, yeah, he is those under average teams, below average teams Rema is talking about really aren't that below average. They're just friendly games and stuff like that. Sure, I understand it. Sometimes you do. But calling teams such as AC Milan and Benfica in the 60s, which are undoubtedly two of some of the best teams ever assembled, is a bit showing of the lack of research. But let's see if he actually does mention it, because I am going into this video absolutely blind.
Even unofficial games like the ones recorded against the Brazilian Coast Guard were counted towards his goal tally. Pele's official record is 757 goals in 812 appearances.
Okay, I by mistake said 780. Okay, continue. 757 in 812 though. That's still an insane goal tally.
Which, don't get me wrong, is of course still legendary. One of the best goal scoring ratios of all time. However, if you look at the score sheet, you'll notice just how skewed some of these scores are in games that Pele scored more than 3.
Well, obviously there are these score lines are pretty misleading, especially to someone who is going into a video like this thinking that, oh, Pele is the greatest player of all time, and he's just mentioned by his grandparents and stuff. These are very misleading, and it's again gonna be interesting to see if he mentions about the fact that the Brazil League in the 60s and the 70s literally made the 3 World Cup winning teams. So yeah, let's just see. Again, Going into it blind, don't know what he will say.
3 goals. We can see his team dominating their opponents with scores like 11-0, 11-1, and 10-0. Also, if you look at the clubs they're against, you'll probably notice Nacional, Juventus, and Botafogo. But those aren't the actual club giants. He never scored 5 goals against the Juventus in Italy, or 5 goals against the Nacional in Uruguay. But he did score on the ones with the same name that played for the Brazilian league. Onto my next point is that the overall competition and level of football that Pele was playing against at the time was not very exceptional at all. Back in
Well, that is possibly one of the worst points he could bring up, man. The Brazil League in the 60s and the 70s, he's talking about it like it's the A League when it's just isn't. The Brazil League in the 60s and the 70s had people like Mario Zagallo, Garrincha, Pele, Zizinho, Nilmar. These are legends of the game. Zico, he and incredible players, and they were all in the Brazil League. All of the Brazilians who won the 1970 World Cup were all from the Brazilian League. So his stat of maybe there not being enough competition. Now, obviously, in that 11 that won the 1970 World Cup, there were only 2 teams that had multiple players. That was Cruzeiro and Santos. So that means that there were multiple clubs on that pitch. So the fact that he's saying that the competition was way too low is a bit misleading. And that's the biggest problem with the video, but we'll get into that later on.
Pele's era, the overall standard and quality of football was not as good. Pele was an exceptional player in that generation because of how he transformed the game. It's no surprise that the nature of football or any other sport, just like with everything else in the world, increases in quality as time goes on due to factors like technological advancement, better understanding, and new styles being developed.
They were still professionals, weren't they? Because obviously, he has brought up the point of, oh, technology has made players better. When, I mean, I don't actually agree with that point. I just feel it's just made the worst players better and the better players remain at that level rather than improve them. I think it just enhances the worst players. But in that old system, players could thrive and the best players would become even better under a system where they were not bound by diet plans or dietitians and stuff like that. Like, obviously, there were people like George Best who'd go out like partying every day, stuff like that, but he was still a good player. Whilst I think it's just a really, again, the word of the day for me of this video is misleading. And yeah, I'm gonna get into it when I talk for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes after this video on my points about Pele.
If you've been paying attention to the level of defense being played, it was hardly impressive. In that era, only a handful of players really stood out. There weren't many elite defenders in that era, but to be fair, Pele was a generational talent that had never been seen before.
Not many good defenders in that era. Oh God almighty, where do we start? This was, I think, Pele played in the same league as Franz Beckenbauer at one point. And he's saying that there weren't good defenders in that era. Again, if he'd just done a bit of thinking about what he said and actually fleshed it out, he would have probably come off a little less confrontational and misleading. So yeah, let's just continue. I want to see where he's taking this point.
Being an exceptional offensive talent with that flair and touch that just seems to come natural to many Brazilian talents in today's game. In fact, Pele's style of play actually bridged the term joga bonito, or the beautiful game, to the football world. But a good question you should ask yourself is, could Pele actually do this against defenders like Sergio Ramos, Paolo Maldini, Fabio Cannavaro, or other elite defenders that came so much longer after he had retired?
You know he did, right? He's acting like Pele didn't even play the World Cup. And the man tore up the World Cup. The reason the legend of Pele still runs to this day is because of that initial 1958 World Cup, where at the age of 18, he managed to tear up that tournament. It was like Kylian Mbappe. That's why Kylian Mbappe's run in the 2018 World Cup was so incredible to watch, because it was like we're watching a spitting image of Pele himself in that kid. Let's continue.
I mean, try naming even a couple of elite defenders in Pele's time. And if you can't, then go ahead and hit that like button. Also, Pele's FIFA...
Zagallo, Zizinho, Gilmore, Franz Beckenbauer. Literally the first three I mentioned are Brazilian. And they played in the Brazilian league. God almighty, this is getting a bit infuriating to watch, gonna be honest. Need to get myself a bit of a break.
World Cup achievements aren't as marvelous as everyone is led to believe. Although he does have the most finals wins, many people believe that he also held the record for the most goals scored. But that record actually belongs to Ronaldo the Fenomeno. Or that was until Germany's Miroslav Klose broke the record in 2014. The most World Cup games won also belongs to fellow Brazilian Cafu with 16.
Let's rewind that a bit, because I noticed that he's not put in a record that Pele actually has. And that's, Pele has the most assists in World Cup history, if I'm right. I'm gonna need an exact number, but I will give that to you at the end of the video.
World Cup games won also belongs to fellow Brazilian Cafu with 16. In fact, Pele was actually outperformed in all three of his World Cup final wins and really only won 2 World Cups. In his first World Cup final win in 1958, his teammate Didi was voted the player of the tournament. In his second World Cup win in 1962, he was injured and didn't even play any significant minutes, while
the man scored in the first game and assisted a goal in the first game. 1958, he won Young Player of the Year, and 1970 was his final hurrah as a player. You gotta understand that at that time, Pele was an old person in the 1970 World Cup, and he still pushed on. And yes, Pele didn't win a golden boot at the World Cup. So didn't Puskás, Bichan, Zidane, Ronaldo, Messi. I can go on. Cruyff. Many people have not won golden boots at World Cups, yet are still considered some of the best players in the tournament. Let's just move on.
Teammate Garrincha led Brazil to a win with some breathtaking performances. And on his third and final World Cup win in 1970, which was the first ever World Cup to be broadcasted in full color, Pele wasn't even Brazil's top goal scorer. The honor actually belongs to his teammate Jairzinho, who
Oh god, okay. Again, same thing. So what, Pele didn't win a golden boot? He scored a lot of goals, didn't he? Like how, it's just a bit infuriating, but let's move on. What other good points does he have to bring up?
scored 7 goals in the tournament. So I read many Brazilians are actually aware of these facts. It's more common knowledge for them, but to everyone else, Pele's name just seems to be on a whole nother level. Apparently, if you ask any Brazilian who their greatest players are, you're likely to hear Jairzinho, Garrincha, or Zizinho.
No, you won't. You actually won't, Rema. You won't. It's Pele's a god in Brazil. Like, he is worshipped. He's the same worship as we as Indians worship Sunil Chhetri or Sachin Tendulkar if they worship Sachin Tendulkar as a cricketer, Like, that's the level of devotion the guys have for Pele. Sure, some people would say Garrincha, but Zizinho, really? They won't. It's simple. Maybe you'll even get some of the newer people saying El Fenomeno, but no, most of them will give away their life rather than say anyone other than their god in Pele.
In fact, on my video about the tragic story of Robinho, there are quite a few Brazilian viewers saying how Pele is crazy and that nobody really pays attention to the things he says. Which, if you do want to watch, is on the top right corner of your screen right now or the first link in the description.
Okay, yeah, again, this is the point I knew he was going to bring up about the fact that Pele keeps on exaggerating. That is actually pretty annoying, though. That is a pretty annoying thing about him. But, I mean, let's just go away from the stories, because we know that that is exaggerated. That's just common sense with us. However, it just doesn't shy away from how incredible of a footballer he is. And I just don't think it is a rational point to bring up saying, oh, the guy exaggerates, when even his established goals are incredible. His established statistics and the videos are there for everyone to see and everyone to just look at in awe about this guy.
Interestingly enough, in 2002, a year where Brazil won the World Cup, their coach Luis Scolari said that he believes Pele knows nothing about football. By the 1970s, Pele was world-renowned, being the second most recognizable name in Europe, second only to Coca-Cola. Pele was famous that his club Santos took him out on multiple world tours to play exhibition matches and friendlies because so many people would pay to see him play, even if he was against absolute scrubs. And this
Yeah, I know that actually because it's a very famous thing. I even put up a image in my last video of Pele playing a match against Mohan Bagan, and it was wonderful for especially Indian fans, because to this day you'd hear Kolkata fans screaming, like especially the older ones who were fans in the 70s. They will remember the exact day and the exact moment and exactly where they watched when Pele came to India. That's just a spectacle. He is an icon, and I don't think that's undeniable in any way.
is where most of his 500 plus unofficial goals would come from. He would play more than 100 games touring around Europe, and maybe this is how he earned such a legendary status. Every time Pele went on a tour, there would be newspaper articles and columns that circulated all over the world, not only in Europe. He was a walking box office hit. Before he went on increased not only his fame but his seemingly legendary goal-scoring record. And maybe it's because of this that people would spread his name and tie it to the greatest of all time. In all honesty, it just seems to me like the older generations talking about Pele as the best ever has kinda just been passed down and blindly accepted. Pele did impact the game and bring football into a whole new level, bringing even more popularity and interest in the sport. I guess you could say Pele is the grandfather of football. And maybe you as a football fan consider him the greatest ever simply because of all this. And don't get me wrong, Pele was the most dominant player in his era and was immensely gifted for his time. He is the all-time leading goal scorer for Brazil with 77 official goals, holds the record for the hat-tricks with 92, the youngest to ever score a goal in the FIFA World Cup, and the youngest to score a hat-trick in the World Cup. He is in FIFA's 100 greatest footballers list, was the FIFA Player of the Century, and was also included in Time magazine's 100 most important people of the 20th century. Anyways, the purpose of this video is to just inform you guys about a lot of misconceptions surrounding Pele's career and to basically give you a rundown of why I believe Pele is the most overrated footballer of all time. But again, I just want to say that I
Think we can stop it here actually. Now here are my thoughts. Oh wow. Oh wow. There is a lot wrong, isn't there? As I said, the main word of the day is misleading. Because you will see this time and time and time and time and time and time again in Instagram comment sections on any post praising Pele, calling him the most overrated player of all time, and so much more. And I don't understand it. I don't actually, because yes, I do agree with the point. I do agree with some of the points that some people just blindly believe that he is the greatest player of all time. However, this is coming from someone who's watched hours of footage of this guy to try and form my own opinion on him. And I will honestly say he's not my top player of all time, but that's because I can't decide. Because in my eyes, he is definitely a podium top three. Because skillful, fast, he could head a ball, and he can do more stuff with a goddamn dart, than I could do with a football. And it's just, again, misleading, because you will know that there are going to be people my age or even younger looking at this video, and they are going to start believing, again, blindly believing the word that you keep on using, Rema, blindly believing that Pele is an overrated person who never left Brazil and on never did anything other than this thing. Just give me a minute, because I have a wonderful post to share with you all. I'm going to be putting it in the comments in the bio of this video, because you need to see it, because it's a wonderful post by an account by the name of Football Family, and it is a wonderful thing running down all the myths about Pele. Here are a handful of Pele's records: the youngest World Cup winner, the youngest best young player of the tournament World Cup winner, the most World Cup titles as a player with 3, the youngest World Cup hat trick, most headed goals of all time. Yes, that's more than Peter Crouch. And this guy, and I also, with the headed goals, I think he's under 6 foot as well. There's no actual official record of his height, but he was pretty short for a player. Most goals in a calendar year with 126. I understand that may be unofficial, but still insane. 126 in 100 games, if that's the number we're going by with this video. It's still more than 1 goal a game. Brazil's record goal scorer, the World Cup record assister, which is a stat Rema has intentionally left out of this video. Most Ballon d'Ors of all time. Now, this one actually is going to be a little weird, but you need to research it. So, FIFA in 2016 decided that they're going to reevaluate every single Ballon d'Or that happened before they started allowing to give it to South American players, because before it, France Football used to give it only to European players, and with this, he would have had the most Ballon d'Ors of all time reevaluated by them. Most official hat tricks were 92. Yes, that is more goals than Lionel Messi scored in a calendar year. This guy got in hat tricks. And of course, the youngest World Cup final goal scorer. He is, in my eyes, one of the most skillful players of all time, the best player of the 60s, Brazil's greatest player of all time, arguably the top 3 greatest players of all time, and again, a fact that this man refuses to acknowledge is that Pele played most of his career where Bobby Firmino is playing for Liverpool, and that's deep. So the fact that he scored these many goals is more impressive than anything. Before we go, yeah, it is going to be my last video for a long time. I'm going to be putting that post in the description down below. You need to read it so you can have a bit of context in my arguments. This is almost 30 minutes long, and I hope you like this new sort of format. Anyway, until the next Staple Speaks, peace.